after construction was forced to stop.
No, I'll pay for it. It's no problem. I'll pay my guys. You know, it ain't a problem. My heart goes out to her, you know, and she doesn't need to suffer anymore.
We told you last week, eagles nested next door, and due to wildlife protections, repairs to her driveway were never finished. But now she has some closure after months of headaches. It's your big story at 7. I'm Megan Miller.
And I'm Jeff Harris. ABC 7's Rachel Whalen takes you to the home off of Agualinda Boulevard and Southwest 45th Terrace and shows you who stepped up to help.
Well, crews just finished work on this driveway. Take a look. They started around 8 a.m. this morning, finished up work around 5 p.m. tonight. Marie tells me that it has been a huge relief for her.
I want to be made whole again.
Just 2 days ago, we introduced you to Marie Gadula. She was standing in the middle of her torn-up driveway next to a big pile of debris. The city forced Next Level Pavers to stop working on her driveway after finding an eagle's nest near her home. On top of all of that, her husband Stanley had just died suddenly from a heart attack. But this morning, pavers got back to work. After we reported this story, owner Justin Capobianco came to an agreement with Marie and the city. They decided to redo the driveway entirely by hand with no extra cost.
We're going to do all our cuts in the back of the house as per city. We're going to do everything that we're told to do.
I'm thrilled that she's finally getting her driveway back in. And we're taking her out to dinner tonight.
Oh, you are? Marie's neighbor Frank is the one who told us about her driveway. He was also a dear friend of Stanley. What do you think that Stanley would think of everything that's happened?
He would appreciate the fact that his buddies have come to my aid.
If Marie had waited until the end of eagle nesting season, this project probably wouldn't have been done until mid-May. I'm reporting in Cape Coral, Rachel Whalen, ABC 7.
Oh, we got a guy with a gun here. There's a cop, it seems like, and he's told me to get down.
A Fort Myers church says it's adding more security and offering free counseling services after it was evacuated by police this weekend. Someone reported they saw a suspicious person who was potentially armed nearby.
We just have to continue to live, you know, and not let fear control us.
We're learning 2 people detained at the scene were released. The Fort Myers Police Department says they didn't locate anyone that matched the caller's description.
At a press conference today, Governor DeSantis said he is working with lawmakers on a bill that would ban public camping throughout the state. He spoke at a podium with a sign reading, quote, "Don't allow Florida to become San Francisco." DeSantis says this is part of an effort to maintain law and order and fight homelessness.
But my bottom line is this. People that live in Miami Beach, people that live anywhere in the state of Florida, you know, I take it as like kind of the dad test. Like, can I just take my kids and just walk down the street to see shop? You should be able to do that every place.
Under the bill, public sleeping in all cities and counties would be banned unless a temporary permit is issued. Businesses and individuals would then be able to sue local governments if they fail to enforce the law.
Today, Fort Myers Beach City Council met to select a replacement after Councilman Bill Veach resigned, but no decision was reached today. Veach resigned from his position because of Form 6. It requires council members to report financial assets over $1,000. Council members voted 3 times this morning, but there was no consensus. They'll hold a special meeting next week to decide. Also, Sanibel City Council will discuss filling Dr. Scott Crater's seat after he resigned back in December. 9 people applied to fill his seat until the term ends. That happens in June. We'll let you know what's decided.
Florida lawmakers are considering a constitutional amendment that would cap the amount of THC in smokable medical marijuana. It would be limited to 30% THC. All other forms except edibles would be capped at 60%. Critics argue it may force operators to use additives that could be dangerous when inhaled. Only 2 states, Connecticut and Vermont, have set potency limits.
What is the disorder that we're talking about here? Where are we drawing the line?
It's one of the most common childhood disorders, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, or ADHD. It affects millions of people in the U.S., but some experts say misinformation about the disorder on social media may be putting some people at risk.
Tonight, Mandy Gaither gets you more on why experts say a self-diagnosis could be dangerous.
If properly diagnosed, people with ADHD or attention deficit hyperactivity disorder can get medication to help with symptoms like the inability to concentrate or sit still. Social media may be helping to reduce stigma surrounding this disorder, but some believe it's doing some damage too.
I think the whole conversation around mental health, of course, has changed for the better in the sense that people are actually quite open and honest about talking about their individual struggles. But the challenge or the flip side of it is that it almost becomes talked about term in the popular sphere where clinical terms might start to get misused.
Clinical psychiatrist Dr. Anthony Young and his colleagues started studying ADHD videos posted on social media after noticing more patients coming in for help with focus and concentration. Young says the research revealed more than half of the top 100 most popular videos posted on ADHD at the time had misleading information about the disorder. Their concern is that more people are diagnosing themselves with ADHD and getting treatment they may not even need.
If everybody starts identifying themselves as having ADHD, if like 10% becomes 20%, becomes 30, becomes 50, becomes 60%, then really what is the disorder that we're talking about here? Where are we drawing the line?
If you suspect ADHD, health experts say it's important to see a doctor to be evaluated.
That was Mandy Gaither reporting tonight. The CDC says getting an ADHD diagnosis can be a long process, but the first step is to reach out to a healthcare provider to find out if the symptoms fit the diagnosis. That can be a psychologist, psychiatrist, or a primary care provider.
FEMA granted Lee County an additional $51 million to cover expenses for removing debris after Hurricane Ian. Of course, we saw it. The storm created a lot of debris that threatened public health and safety. The agency had already approved another $16 million in funding to clean up the streets after the storm.
Tonight, the Florida Senate is debating a bill that would ban children under the age of 16 from having social media. We told you a similar House bill passed last week. Also last week, Governor Ron DeSantis raised concerns about the scope of the bills. Critics have said the legislation is unconstitutional and violate First Amendment protections.
Folks would have liked to see the age lowered, perhaps to 13 as a compromise. They felt like up to age 16 was too far.
If the social media companies do not comply, the state could issue fines against them. The platforms could also have to pay the minor $10,000. Meta, the parent company of Facebook and Instagram, and tech industry groups have criticized the proposal and warned about a court challenge.
Netflix users need to get ready for another price hike. The streaming company warned Florida residents about an additional state service tax. Florida's communication services tax applies to sales including cable, video, and music streaming services. You can expect to see the additional charge starting this month. Netflix didn't explain why it's going into effect right now. Drivers, listen up. You can expect delays along Del Prado Boulevard South in Cape Coral. Closures will take place just south of Southeast 42nd Terrace. Crews will start work at 9 o'clock tonight till 5 tomorrow morning along the southbound far right lane of Del Prado. They'll be working in storm pipe repairs, and nighttime work is expected to last for 2 weeks.
So I look at the ingredient label and I try to make sure that everything I'm eating is as whole food as possible.
Going beyond the label, ABC 7 reveals the truth behind the popular terms you see on food.
And I dig deeper, getting you more on why a new term may confuse consumers more.
There is a cold front on its way through southwest Florida, maybe a sprinkle or two as we go through the evening, but some of us have a northwesterly wind, others still have that southeasterly wind. The front is going through the area, but once everybody turns northwesterly, it gets cool. I'm going to get you more on how cool it gets and how long the cool air is going to last on ABC 7 News at 7. That's next.
More and more, shoppers want to know what's in the food they're buying at the store.
Food labels are supposed to make it clear which foods are healthiest for consumers. But the sheer number of choices can be confusing at best and misleading at worst. Until recently, these labels weren't even regulated.
And I think the general consensus has only added confusion.
That's where Congress stepped in, passing a law in 2016 directing the USDA to create a national standard for GMO food labels. Which is why you might see this new term on something you've bought recently, bioengineered.
It replaces what we used to call GMO, or genetically modified organisms.
It's part of a decades-long debate about whether foods boosted by science are safe.
We're going beyond the buzzwords in tonight's cover story. I'm getting you more from experts who reveal the truth about what you're adding to your grocery cart.
Tiffany Cubison is a holistic health coach.
I got into this field because I suffered with a lot of different chronic health symptoms, and I really wanted to learn how to heal myself naturally.
At the grocery store, she's particular about what she picks out.
So I look at the ingredient label and I try to make sure that everything I'm eating is as whole food as possible. And if I see something that sounds like it's scientific or it's lab made, I will do a deep dive into what that means so I can understand what that ingredient is.
Since she started on her health journey, a new term has come on the scene: bioengineered food ingredients.
GMO is something that I was more familiar with, and it's something that I'm really conscious of with my ingredients.
So what's the difference? To get to the bottom of it, I talked to FGCU professor Dr. John Griffiths. He has a PhD in environmental horticulture.
So what bioengineered things are is, for the most part, a change that we've never seen in nature.
Same goes for a GMO, but you can think of it kind of like a middle school math lesson. All squares are rectangles, but not all rectangles are squares. Same goes for these two food terms. All bioengineered foods are GMOs, but not all GMOs are bioengineered. Dr. Griffith says it comes down to the technique.
And it may be rearranging genes within the plant. Different genes are turned on and different genes are turned off because they may already exist in the plant, but they're never turned on. There's other examples, and we see things, classic GMO, where genes are brought in from an organism and inserted into another. And that's a little more exotic. It's also quite a bit harder.
The USDA has a growing list of what it considers bioengineered. Right now, if something is made with one of these 14 ingredients, the disclaimer needs to be on the box or bag. For example, these Cheez-Its contain both canola and soy. Both of those things are on the list of 14 ingredients, so they could be the reason for the disclaimer. Dr. Griffith says these modifications are meant to help farmers.
A good example is canola, which has a gene modification in it to help the plant with disease resistance. It's a good thing because it means we don't have to spray chemicals. The plant resists it without any application, but it is a modification that wouldn't have occurred where we couldn't find it naturally.
A big argument against GMOs is the concern that farmers can use more chemicals.
That's not what we're looking at mostly today. We're looking at the reverse.
Of all the studies done so far, Dr. Griffiths tells me none say bioengineered foods are unsafe. They've actually been on the market for years, just without the label.
I encourage people not to be afraid of it.
But the Center for Food Safety argues more long-term research is needed.
I know that that is a concern many people have, and it's a very legitimate concern.
And I don't want to wait when it comes to my health and find out 10 years later that something wasn't good for me.
For now, Tiffany says she'll continue seeking out more information for herself and her clients.
From what I've learned is that certain foods actually are fine to eat unorganic. And the best resource that I have found is the EWG site. And if you go to that website, it will actually tell you what foods are more likely to be sprayed with pesticides. So you should probably buy those organic if you can. This is not really meant to scare you. It's just to make you more informed and empowered to then make your own decision.
Experts in ag say boosting foods with science is crucial for sustainability.
Because we also have this issue of growing more food on less land, and we need to be respectful of the environment that we're basing that production upon. These are huge questions, and so if biotechnology can somehow help figure out the puzzle of putting all these different pieces together, then we need to let biotechnology work, at least explore it.
I I reached out to the USDA, who says it's important to note this new term is a marketing standard and does not convey information about the health or safety of a food. They say that goes through agencies like the FDA, the EPA, and they wouldn't comment on some of my other questions due to pending litigation.
Let's get you more tonight. The Center for Food Safety is suing the USDA over the new label, arguing it did not carry out Congress's intent to create clear packaging.
It did not require all foods that contain GE material to be labeled because it made an exemption for foods that contain highly refined GE material.
The nonprofit claims the term bioengineered isn't transparent to shoppers and instead creates more confusion. The appeal also challenges a loophole which excludes highly refined products from mandatory GMO disclosure.
Now, the ABC 7 forecast. Your most accurate forecast.
And as I told you on the 6 o'clock newscast, we have just a few little rain showers passing through the area. One of them is getting ready to just kind of move mostly south of Immokalee. You'll see a few showers, a few little raindrops near the casino, and then probably point south of there towards Immokalee Road, between Lake Trafford and Immokalee Road. You can see it is traveling off to the east. So that'll pass State Road 29, again, on the south side of Immokalee. The rest of Collier County from Naples Park through Marco Island is dry right now, as is Lee County. A couple little sprinkles moving from Lee into Collier, northwest of that little heavier shower that I showed you. But everybody from Cape Coral into Lehigh and Buckingham and into Bonita Springs, you're dry, along with Port Charlotte and Punta Gorda. And some of our inland locations around Highlands County and there in western Glades County, we're seeing an isolated shower right here, not too far from the intersection of US 27 and State Road 29. All this is moving inland because of our northwesterly wind. So we've had a cold front go through, and that's turned our wind direction to the northwest. We're already a little bit cooler than we were this time yesterday, to the tune of about 3 degrees. And that not only is going to take these showers and push them a little bit deeper inland, but behind these showers, we have some cooler air coming in for tonight. And then despite sunshine, we are going to see some cooler temperatures for tomorrow afternoon. Look at temperatures in Cape Coral right now. Northwest, northeast, southeast, and southwest Cape, all at 61 degrees. So it's fairly comfortable. The rest of Lee County sitting around 61, 62 degrees. Into Collier County, it's the low 60s. And even inland, we're seeing temperatures in the 60s. Into Charlotte County, about 61. In Port Charlotte and Punta Gorda as well. These temperatures are going to bounce back down into the low 50s overnight. And tomorrow is going to be even chillier. So we're going to look for this northwesterly wind to hang around for a little while. And as it comes in tonight, it's going to wring out the remaining moisture in the atmosphere. And so when you wake up tomorrow morning, you're going to see a mostly cloudy sky. This is 6 o'clock on our storm tracker. Fairly cloudy out there. But watch what happens as the dry air builds throughout the column of the atmosphere. Those clouds get eroded away and pushed to the south. And so by noontime, it's mostly sunny across the area. And despite all this sunshine, tomorrow afternoon's high temperatures are only going to get into the upper 60s. 1 or 2 lucky souls may touch 70 tomorrow afternoon, but most of us staying in the upper 60s. So 52 tonight, 69 tomorrow. It's going to be gusty as well tomorrow, so it'll feel more like the mid-60s and the upper 60s. And then 2 nights in the 40s. We do get back into the 70s for afternoon high temperatures. We're going to be close to 80, so if you're making your weekend plans, we're not expecting rain this weekend. Picture perfect, near 60 at night, near 80 in the afternoon. That's going to be nice. Our next chance for rain, after the rain that we saw this morning, comes next Monday. A 20% chance for some showers. And that's your most accurate forecast from ABC 7.
See the massive effort it took to save this sea cow. That's coming up next at 7. It was smooth sailing for this sea cow. Tonight, you're watching new video of FWC releasing a manatee at Manatee Park in Fort Myers. This happened last Tuesday. The manatee had been rescued from a canal in Cape Coral earlier that day, and you can see that it took a team effort to move the massive mammal back into the water. Just incredible video from above.
Yeah, it's really cool to see. I counted like 10 people there. Obviously, manatee, they're not the lightest animals out there.
But there are a bunch at Manatee Park in Fort Myers if you want to check them out.
But glad to see that group effort there.